All right, Ged. It is Kenobi Wednesday. Um, spoilers ahead, everybody.
Yeah.
That was quite the episode, and I am very, very interested to get your thoughts and opinion on what we saw.
All right.
Any particular spot you want? You know what? You know where I want to start with? One of the parts of the episode I actually enjoyed, and I got a feeling some people will shrug off as slow and not as enjoyable. I really liked, the further bonding between Obi-Wan and Leia in this one. And again, anytime Obi-Wan starts thinking about Padme and makes references to like her family, like I just love all those little moments. It's adding, it's very similar-esque to Mando slash, Grogu. Like Mando was obviously had feelings, was reluctant to take and going on. And like Obi-Wan was reluctant to take that job. But now that he's in there and he sees so many similarities to, his former best friends, you see that relationship really blossoming. But the one thing I will say is like, the one thing that seems a little silly in hindsight now is when Leia records the message to Obi-Wan, you're my only hope. You served my father in the Clone Wars. Like, did she forget that she went on a whole like action adventure?
No, it just didn't exist.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's obviously it's always gonna be hard to connect those threads, but
Yeah.
like it's almost like, oh, Uncle Obi, like you're the man. But I know they can't always make that seem, and I think the show's better for this relationship than having Obi-Wan be cold and mysterious about it.
So just to piggyback on what you say about bonding, there are certain lines in this episode that hit me like a ton of bricks. Like when he's speaking to the stormtrooper, he's like, when I look into her eyes, I see her mother. Like that is obviously painfully obvious that he's referring to Padme, and she picks up on the fact that he's very different. Like they keep referencing force sensitive children, but she's been able to take people's feelings, read them, and blurt them back to them. Like, for example, her cousin, where he talks about that, he's always scared of his father because he wants him to like him. And he thinks that if he's intimidating, people will like him. Like, you can see these signs of her being force sensitive. When they're sitting on that, she's like, she basically says, that's the first time you haven't lied to me. And then when she asks him, are you my real father? And he says, what do you say? Like, no, but I wish I was. Like, there's some really interesting, cool kind of dynamics that really show a side of vulnerability to Obi-Wan that we technically haven't really seen since Clone Wars, when he was on Mandalore, and he was romantically interested in the queen there. Yeah. So, I mean, the vulnerability she's showing, the bonding, the fact that Leia can literally pick up and borderline read his mind, I think was not only was it a great bonding scene, but was also a massive like smash in the face that she's of a very rich Force bloodline.
Yeah, and that is a good point. I hadn't even really considered like Leia's like intuition and like her, eventual ability, being like the senator and handling those rooms, like having that sensitivity and awareness and stuff like that obviously plays a huge role.
And this is like the second or third time she's called that out. Or even when she looks at the lady who's helping them, it's okay to be afraid. Like the person's trying to be very brave and very tough. The lady who helps him, which by the way is an awesome character. I love that she calls it out, being like, it's okay. Obi-Wan has always been very emotionally connected, intelligent, and I refuse to be with the man. Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Okay, so we also get, obviously the big part of this episode that everyone's going to be talking about is we finally get Vader doing something.
Mm-hmm.
The assembly of Vader I thought was very cool, very well done. I guess out of all the Vader scenes, I thought everything was great. I don't know why. It just, when he's sitting on the throne and talking, I don't know if it was the voice, just something just seemed a hair off to me. But then the rest of all the Vader scenes and every time he speaks was awesome. That might just be me. Again, like I'm assuming it's James Earl Jones is back voicing it. I
I would think
know
so.
obviously his voice is getting obviously a little older.
Hmm.
But there's almost a scene later on where it almost felt like they just ripped the audio out of Empire and just threw it in there. I almost wonder if they're doing a little bit of, how they like digitally recreated Luke's younger voice in
Yeah.
Mando. I wonder if they're doing a little bit of that with James.
Yeah.
But again, I thought the reveal, everything was cool, and we get to see now. Not that it's not necessarily clear what Reva's plan is versus Vader's, but we see that Vader is more. It's we were talking about. I thought Vader was going to strike Reva down for her lust for power and start viewing her as a threat, as the Sith always do. But it looks like he's leaning again. You never know what Vader is actually thinking and calculating, right? He just wants the end goal.
Yeah.
It almost seems like he's going to potentially reward Reva for her determination of power. But we see later on, it's clear it was really kind of heavy fisted when Reva's like, "Yeah, I'll get what I'm deserved," or something like that over and over again. I think it's kind of clear she's not talking about being the Grand Inquisitor. It's obviously something else. Did you pick up on that?
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely something going on, and I hope we don't find out until towards the end. I think that's a very cool kind
Yeah, I
of
think
sub story.
it's going to be the reveal at the end of what
I
her true
don't
intentions
think
are.
it's her wanting to run the empire. I don't think you're going to see a
No.
confrontation. There has to be, um, yeah. And actually, Tristan, you make a good point. Like, is this a possible apprentice situation?
Yeah, I don't know. Like he took on, obviously Starkiller is not, canon, I don't believe. But yeah, it's interesting. Like if Vader
That's a
did
good
show
point.
favor to her, like even like the Emperor had Mara Jade. Like again, she was called the
Yep.
Emperor's hand, not like a true Sith, but they've always dabbled. This, the whole rule of two thing is so they run fast and loose with with the rules a lot.
Yeah.
The Inquisitors are, they don't necessarily call them Sith, but they're essentially utilizing dark side Force users. Like whatever you want to semantics aside, like they are Sith at the end of the day.
They literally remind me of the Sith version of the Jedi Templars who carried the yellow
Yeah,
sabers back in the day on Coruscant, where they weren't blue, they weren't green, they had like this yellow type or white type saber,
yeah,
and they're basically the defenders of the Jedi Temple, and they had Force sensitivity, but they
yeah.
weren't Jedi's. Kind of literally reminds me exactly of that.
Yeah, and I think it's more clear now that I don't think Reva really has anything to do with Obi-Wan or any sort of bone to pick with Obi-Wan. It's more so she has something to do with Vader is what
Yeah,
it's looking more so, and Obi-Wan is just the piece she needs to get in Vader's favor or his audience.
yep.
I guess we'll see, down down the line what her actual end goal is.
Yeah,
Um
interest, and I totally agree with you. Yeah, like there's always that. It looks like they've always dabbled in that third apprentice, and maybe she wants to be that person. She was obviously outcast somewhere, and feels like she has a sense of belonging there. So,
Yeah, like look at the Clone Wars, right? Like Dooku with Ventress, Maul with
yes,
Savage,
Ventress.
and
Yep.
basically Sidious told both of them and struck down, time to end it. Like, so it's always been historically there.
Yep.
So now Vader, we get him in action. Vader was absolutely ruthless and brutal. And I like that the second he arrives, Inquisitors, you're taking a back seat. We're now entering the Obi-Wan Kenobi Darth Vader show, which I think might have been a lot of people's complaints in the first two episodes.
Hmm.
And we get the two main stars, front and center. Vader just snapping necks just to draw Obi-Wan out was just, very dark moment for him. You could see the uneasiness in Obi-Wan being like, oh my God, like,
Hmm.
he's like, am I actually going to have to go out there and fight them? He's like, I have to do something, but I can't face Anakin again. Like, he's almost like
Yep.
he feels shame of what happened.
Yep.
But then
For sure.
also the duty to protect people and, this is a Sith Lord. Like, we got to do something about it, right?
Yeah, and hold on quickly before you jump
Yeah,
on there. That's very similar to the extreme actions that you're seeing the third sister take, that you're seeing Reva take. Her other siblings are saying, "You go too far. You're reckless." I saw Vader chucking people around like rag dolls, as like she's looking at that as the example.
yeah,
So there's a comment in the second episode where the brother from Fast and the Furious says, "You go too far," and she's like, "Maybe you don't go far enough."
yeah.
And you can see Vader literally chucking around the innocent. Like that's the example that kind of, in my opinion, further solidifies that her goal is to stand out and be that next, right?
Yeah, and we're like, in Vader right now, you can obviously tell is extremely motivated by rage and revenge.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that also lends a little bit to the recklessness that he is at the moment. But like, maybe that is also what's potentially motivating Reva, right? We don't know yet, but we'll find out. Um, the lightsaber battles between Vader and Obi-Wan. Did you like that Vader essentially just stalked him around and Obi-Wan? Uh, I think him being turned off from the Force for so long and obviously being older is why he appeared so weak. I think when they have their rematch in the finale, he is going to, um, you know, have a much better showing. Because I think Obi-Wan's he's an emotional mess during this battle. He's just trying to
Yep.
survive. And like, again, his end goal is to create a diversion for Leia, essentially to get away. Like, that's really he's doing. So I thought, it was an interesting tease of them to know that, Obi-Wan's been found. Anakin has survived, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And they have this conflict they got to resolve. Um,
Yep.
did you
Just
like
just
that?
hold on, just
Yeah.
just just quickly in the comment, Tristan. I agree that that is a little strange for Inquisitors that they would have boundaries. And James, yeah, 100%. Like she truly has, maybe to a forced perspective, like she wants to have that Sith mindset, and she's not afraid to let it fly. Anyway, just want to make sure that I was
Yeah, like
acknowledging the comments.
out of all the Inquisitors, right? They almost follow like that Empire, like Law and Order type model, whereas Riva is fully like letting her
Fully
emotions
Sith.
fly, right?
Yeah.
Which fits the dark side thing. And
Yeah.
I know there's been a lot of complaints. Some people think Riva's annoying and blah blah blah, but that's like it for me. It fits. Like, I
Absolutely.
could understand. Again, we don't know what what her final goal is yet. That's going to be revealed towards the end. But like, it works for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I thought, like, again, in this episode, the Inquisitors kind of took a step back and they let Vader and Obi-Wan do their thing, which I thought was very well done. Did you like Vader dragging Obi-Wan through the fire as you
Yeah,
burn me,
on
I
on
burn, eye
onto
for
this
an eye.
fight. This to me was incredible directing, incredible cinematography. I love that it shows just how at peak Anakin's Vader is right now with the Force, and how half turned off, unengaged, uninterested, and sloppy Obi-Wan has become. I mean, the
Yeah.
fact that that Vader's able to pick him up, drag him through the fire, he stalks him in that fight. Even little things like I've seen the movies long enough to know that when Obi-Wan's kind of running from Anakin, he's very shaky, he's very unsure. He doesn't ignite his saber at the beginning. It's almost like he has no idea what he was doing. And if you flash back to Clone Wars and Episode 3, I mean, he's very sure, he's very steady. He moves without fear of consequence in terms of what each movement is. And like, to me, that it was just perfectly done. Just how out of sorts he is at the idea of having really any conflict. Forget about the conflict with Vader, right?
Yeah, no, totally. And when Vader's using one hand, he's toying with the person. He's like, it's just like against Luke, right? That first battle, he's just toying
Mm-hmm.
with them, and it appears Vader really he doesn't necessarily want to kill Obi-Wan now. He wants to make Obi-Wan suffer.
Pain,
Yeah,
pain. Oh, and Tristan, to answer your question, Vader basically told them to stay out of that part of the fight. They were to
yeah,
clear the village, and Vader was to pursue Obi-Wan on his own.
yeah. It's very clear that like Obi-Wan is Vader's. No one is
Oh yeah,
supposed to engage.
yeah.
So yeah, and then so not like a critique, but like, it's a cool when you see like obviously Obi-Wan gets helped out and then the fire is reignited with him on the other side. But like it's cool looking at Vader through the flames. Like it's a cool shot. But then when my brain activates, it's like, can't he just use the force or something and just blow some of that fire away or lift those coals, whatever it was, off the ground and just continue?
I
Like is
I
he
don't
really
think
gonna
so.
like is he really
No.
gonna let Obi-Wan get away because of that? Like it just
Oh,
I
I
don't know.
see
You know what I
Vader.
mean?
Yeah, yeah. There's definitely more that could have been done, especially if you look forward onto the movies where they're basically jumping over buildings, like the first comics of
Yeah, like
Superman, and where he isn't even willing to make the leap when Obi-Wan's there. But
yeah.
maybe it's part of that suffering. Maybe it's
Yeah.
part of the, yeah, I could jump over and end this now, but like I've had 10 years of torture. Yeah.
All right. So last point about Vader. Oh, what's Tristan say? I thought his suit was somewhat resistant to heat besides lava. Yeah, like once you see it, like you'll see where we're talking about. Like it's essentially the same fire he drags Obi-Wan through. He
Mm-hmm.
didn't want to walk through.
Yeah.
Yeah. Last thought on Vader is, you know, Star Wars in general, Lucasfilm, everyone made a big deal about Hayden Christensen coming back. And obviously, I'm excited for Hayden being back. I thought we were going to get a lot of like new Hayden flashbacks, or at least Hayden sans suit to give him some moments.
Mm-hmm.
It's shaping up like we may not necessarily get that. Like there has been a lot of flashbacks, but a lot of it's either been just stuff from Revenge of the Sith or just audio clips from Revenge of the Sith. There hasn't been really anything new.
Yeah.
Are you surprised? Again, Hayden is the character. I get it. But like considering like he's essentially just being David Prowse in this, right? Like James Earl Jones is the voice and Hayden's just moving the body. Like I wonder if he's actually going to get like some lines to actually speak. What do you think? I assumed they would, and I thought that he was going to have a decent part of it. But now we're 3 episodes in. It's looking a lot less likely to me with how the show's gone.
I agree. Because is he able to have the helmet off outside of that back to tank? Because if the answer is yes, then you might hear him speak.
Yeah.
If the answer is no, then I don't think so.
Yeah. I'm not sure now. I was really hoping we would get it. And again, flashback's the easiest way, but maybe they don't at the point in the story, right? I don't even know if there's need for flashbacks anymore. We just need to accelerate forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree. It's only 6 episodes.
Yeah. Okay, so one of the coolest, if not the coolest moments of the episode for me was when Obi-Wan is in the little room where they were hiding out people, and he's looking at all the carvings on the wall, and he looks at the one, he says, Quinlan. So yeah, just to bring this, up to speed sort of thing. There's a handful of Jedi who survived Order 66, right? And, the list kind of keeps growing. Quinlan Vos has always been one people assumed survived, but there's never been any canon confirmation.
Got it.
So when he reads Quinlan, to me, like, it's like, oh, snap. Like Quinlan Vos there's the confirmation he survived. And
That's
those
cool.
two had, they had an arc together in the Clone Wars as well together. So like Obi-Wan and Quinlan had a good relationship. So it was pretty cool to see the name. I doubt we're going to see him meet up with him.
The person,
in the series, but
the lady does say that he helps younglings.
yeah,
That he's still around, so it's not impossible.
Yeah, so if they were able to if they were able to keep Luke under wraps, if they were able to keep a Quinlan Vos cameo coming in near the end, secret, that'd be just awesome to see. Yeah, I'd love to see that. But it's either way, it's sweet that he's alive, and now maybe they have plans for him in another, whether it's the Bad Batch,
Yeah.
Maybe there's plans for some sort of material involving him. So I thought that was a cool little Easter egg. And what else did I have? I think that's all I had. Did you have any other notes for this episode?
No,
I like
I
the
don't
uh,
say this is a bad thing.
yeah,
My one concern with this episode is that I think there was a lot of cool moments, but I don't think that people, including us, are really going to realize that until later on because it was so overshadowed by the Vader Obi-Wan thing. Like the lady that helps them out, I think it's amazing. I'd love to know a little bit more about that backstory. The fact that they land and they don't really find help at the beginning. I thought that was very like there's so much there that it kind of got grossly overshadowed. The battle between the first or second brother or whichever it is in the Inquisitor and the third sister. I mean, there's so much that I hope they kind of unpack as it continues to go on because
yeah. There's
obviously
definitely a lot going on.
The Vader Obi-Wan thing like kind of killed, like not killed it, but overshadowed everything.
One other point now that I'm remembering it, and this was something that kind of bothered me. So when Leia enters that tunnel, she's trying to get to the pilot to take her off world.
Yeah,
She has a significant head start.
yeah,
And somehow Riva
beats her there.
beats her to the end.
Makes
and again,
no sense.
and it's a tunnel. Like,
Yeah,
how do
she
you
didn't
like,
teleport there?
Yeah. So that when I saw her there already, I was like, come on, like
Yeah, that'd
you
be a
gotta make
massive
it
gripe.
you gotta make it a little more believable than that. Like
That's a huge gripe.
it's a real stretch for me to believe she somehow got there. Like, did she sense this tunnel magically went to the spaceport? Logically, it would make sense. And did she go around the tunnel to beat her there? And even so, that's the longer way.
Yeah,
And considering the head start Leia had, it
it doesn't make sense.
no.
I agree. It does bring up like, is Vader going to see Leia?
Yeah, okay. I actually did have that note I skipped over. Yeah, so will Riva keep Leia for herself, or
Yeah, I think so.
I think it breaks some things if he says to Vader,
agree.
"I have a prisoner." Vader's kind of given her the ability to act on her own. I think she just pulls her own strings to get Obi-Wan, and
Yeah,
she's obviously going to use Leia to get Obi-Wan, and then she brings Obi-Wan in maybe or something like that.
yeah,
But yeah, there's no way Vader can meet Leia.
yeah. And yes, Tristan, I agree. It's the same thing with her with her outrunning 3 grown adults in the forest. Absolutely.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, no, it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah. Okay, so
Right?
I think we had a lot of positives on this
Yep.
one. So moving forward, let's give this a score.
You're up first because I went last time.
So last week I was an 8.1. Again, I said it how plot threads play out will drive how meaningful those first couple episodes storylines were. But I thought 8.1 was quite fair. This one, I think I got to be higher on. We actually got Vader finally. We got, the narratives being pushed forward. We got a lot of cool moments, some Easter eggs. Again, still a couple things that, like I wish they would have fixed.
Yeah.
But let's go. I'm going to go a solid 8.5.
I'm going to join you.
Yeah.
I'm going to join you. And unfortunately, it's purely because of how well I think that confrontation was done.
Yeah.
And the bonding between Obi-Wan and Leia. I mean, these are things that decades and decades and decades of fans have been waiting to see. Vader at the prime of his power, Obi-Wan not so much. This little girl who's so sassy and so force sensitive, starting to uncover kind of the layers of Obi-Wan. Like the concept of her getting to him and being able to peel those layers back is so massive in terms of what she accomplishes later on in life. I mean, this is an 8.5 for me, and it's hard for me to not go higher.
Yeah.
Like the highest score I think I've ever given was 8.7. And that was on a Mandalorian episode. It's hard to not start touching those numbers. To me, this was like being completely dehydrated in 40-degree heat and having that first massive glass of water.
Yeah.
There was something so vindicating and so relieving about actually seeing it done well.
Yeah, I couldn't
Yep.
agree more. And
Yep.
I've read a lot of sentiment online that, I get comments on videos I make, obviously, and there's, maybe the more negative people like to post more than the positive. But there seem to be a lot of people who weren't really impressed or very happy with how things have been going. And I gotta say, me personally, I've been entertained. Could they have
Enjoyed
done
it.
better in a couple spots? Absolutely. It's not perfect, but we got an Obi-Wan Kenobi series. Like if Star Wars fans, I feel, complain about everything, they're just going to stop giving us this kind of stuff. So like, let's be happy with what we got. And if it's not for you, it's fine.
Yeah.
Maybe another show down the road that's for you. But I think so far they're on the right track, and we can see positive progression
Yep.
towards probably some pretty epic final couple episodes.
Yeah, and just a quick closing note before we sign off here. I saw a message today from you, McGregor. I sent it to you before we went on live stream, addressing some comments towards the character who plays Reva, if I'm not mistaken. It's just not okay. Like,
Yeah.
Star Wars is about fans. It's about love. The fact that Ewan McGregor had to come on and even address this is just not okay. It's okay to not like a character. It's not okay to attack them as people. Like, there's just there's no room for this
No, and like
at all.
at the end of the day, an actress is reading lines written for her
Mm-hmm.
in a style that the director's telling her to do it in.
Yep.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, it's at the end of the day, like, even like if movies are bad, shows are bad, you don't like certain things like that,
That's okay.
a lot of it, sure, there's bad performances out there,
Of
but
course.
like, saying hateful things is never good. Like,
It's
it's,
not okay.
criticism of, a character is fine, but personal attacks, like, come on, people.
Brutal.
And I know I'd like to think that's a very small minority of the fan base, but
Yep. Anyway, I wanted to make sure I made note of that before we signed off.
yeah. And James, we talked about that at the kind of the beginning of the review, because R2's message, help me, Obi-Wan, you're my only hope.
Yeah.
And then she talks about how you
it's not
served my
gonna fit.
father in the Clone Wars. Like, it doesn't fit now with Leia knowing she's 10, so she's gonna have a good memory from now.
Mhm.
Knowing that Obi-Wan Kenobi has literally saved her and she's been on the run with him.
Yeah.
That
And
relationship is a lot different than the one that you see in the recording.
And I'm okay with that. And I hope, James, I hope you are as well. I mean, they're gonna have to break the odd timeline. Like, these are things were written in 1978. Well, it was probably written beforehand,
Yeah.
but came out in 70. I mean, there's gonna be a couple of gaps. They're obviously gonna have to choose it wisely. I am 1000% okay for what it's worth that they have chosen to go this route.
They just got to fix that Grand Inquisitor gap, though. Like,
They'll figure it out.
yeah, there's no mention of it. Just, Obi-Wan killed him was basically what they said.
Yeah.
I was thinking actually this morning, the Grand Inquisitor, like, it's just a title, really. So, like,
Right. It was just because he visually looked so much like the Grand Inquisitor from Rebels.
Yeah, exactly. If you're going to make them that visually similar, obviously it's the same character. So I'm expecting, like, they were back on the Inquisitor home base, and there was no like carrying the Grand Inquisitor with a stretcher to a back tank or anything.
Yeah.
So it'll be, it's again, I really can't see them being that ridiculous and killing off a character who was the main villain of an entire season. Of Rebels. Like, there's probably a lot more in play. And obviously when he does come back, he obviously knows who did that to him. So maybe that's what gets Reva in trouble. But yeah, we'll see.
We shall see.
Lots of interesting stuff. Thanks for watching, everybody. Let us know in the comments what you thought of this episode.
Yeah, love the chats.
We will see you all on next Wednesday. Peace out.
Cheers.